hidden. Hey, so good. Brav is Medi. In an appropriate moment, when Game doesn't pay attention, I'm gonna hide from her. That is to maintain the radius and to remind her to keep an eye on me. I prefer using this, so I use this strategy more often than I use a recall in order to keep the recall sharp. This works well with biddable dogs like mine, maybe harder with very independent breeds. Well, it for sure is harder with very independent breeds. Bravissy, so good. Muy bien. When she offers voluntary check-ins, I praise those. There's no need for her to come back to me. I just like them, and I don't want her to feel like she needs to come back all the time, or even feel punished by being recalled or marked with a marker that requires her to come back to collect food or something like that. So I just let her know. Verbally. You can hear someone's working in these woods with a chainsaw. Brave mouse. So usually I wouldn't be looking in her direction, but just keep going. But I wanted you to see her. She's free to do whatever she wants. I just want her to occasionally remember that I exist, and I do that mostly by hiding if there's no reason to call her back. Hope you can hear my voice over the chainsaw. Usually I wouldn't be talking, so me praising her for looking back would stand out more. I'd use the recall if, for example, there was a group of kids coming our way, and then I'd call her and keep her with me because I don't want to scare the kids. I don't want my dog to scare the kids, for example. But otherwise, as long as we're out here by ourselves, there's no calling her, because why would I? I want her to enjoy her walk. And that is especially true for my dog, because we live in Mexico City. And there's less freedom on her walks there. So now that we're on vacation, basically, well, sort of, it's not really a vacation, in Austria, and I can allow her more freedom because there's less people, less cars, etc. There's less calling. Let me show you quickly how I would hide. I don't know. She doesn't give me a reason to hide here. She's already had a number of good runs. So now she just pretty much walks at my speed and stays close. We'll just wait for the next moment, where she's a little further ahead, and there's a good space to hide. Now there's a fence. I can't hide behind the fence. It's gonna end up being brave mouse. A much longer video. So I just praised her. That was German. For a good meal. There's a fish pond behind the fence. Brav bist du. But that's alright. I'll just take you on my favorite, or part of my favorite walk here. Oh, you found a hole in the fence. Good for you. Oh yeah, there is a hole. Brav bist du, ja. Let her drink. She's gonna stay here because I don't want her to get lost and not find the hole again. Brav bist du, ja. It's good to take a break, cool off. And have a good drink. Remember where the hole is? Good girlie. Brav is Midi. And I do acknowledge that this is possible with my kinds of dogs who are biddable. Males, border collies, my poodle, Phoebe. It would be a lot harder with a livestock guardian dog, a scent hound, or husky or something like that. A very independent breed would be very different. So that would be an interesting challenge for me to see how I would navigate life with a dog like this, providing the kind of freedom I want to provide. So here, this trail. This is not the favorite part of my favorite walk, but it is a part of my favorite walk, favorite trail. Here, this trail borders the last houses of the city. As you can see, we'll go here. There's an old recall video in my Calling All Dogs class, I believe. I believe that's still there, that I also shot here. And in a little bit, she's gonna come catch up. Up to the left, there are chickens. Belong to the house. Already had a discussion about not eating those. So now we're good, chicken-wise. And you can hear cars in the distance because we're gonna go for a little bit. We're gonna walk parallel to a freeway. No, it's not a freeway, it's kind of smaller than that, but it's a street, a car street. Then we're gonna dive back into all nature spaces. I don't know if you're able to hear the cars. To change the hand I hold to the camera with, because this is getting exhausting. It's turning into a long video, but I think it's gonna be a good one. So far, on the stretch of walk that I've recorded, game hasn't given me a reason to hide at all. Brav, so. You also have to keep in mind that she's 8 years old. Almost 7 years and 9 months. And I started recording a little bit into our walk, so not when we just started. Which makes her, so she has already burned off some energy, and she's also an adult, reasonable dog by now, and not an adolescent or puppy. Well, puppies are usually easy, but adolescents could get hard. Brav, so See how I reinforce her looking back only verbally, or I praise her. Okay, I'm just gonna hide here behind this. I'm gonna wait for her to tiger back and praise her for coming back. But don't lose your human game. Super, you're so good. Braves Midi. Muy bien. Verbal praise for the don't, and sometimes personal play, pets for the don't lose your human game. And then we're on our way again. Now I'm gonna switch off the camera so I can enjoy my dog and my walk to the fullest. Another way of playing the don't lose your human game is to walk an unexpected direction and wait for your dog, bravissimi, to catch up with you. So in our case, for example, if game expects me to go straight, I could go up the hill on our right instead. She already got it. Good girlie. That's also something that's really fun to play when you're in a very branchy system of paths in the forest. And your dog expects to go one way and then you go another, because the dog can't see you as easily as game can see me here on the fields. And one last thing I wanted to say is, so you've seen her so far anyways, when I was videoing, staying relatively close, being a really good girl. But that doesn't mean she doesn't hunt or chase. So in her case, she only hunts on sight. So she will give chase when she sees a prey animal. But while she enjoys sniffing and finding all the interesting smells, she doesn't follow wildlife trails or tracks. That is, of course, a lot easier to work with than... Ooh, there was a deer just behind this rose bush on the right. She'll probably... I don't think I got it on camera. It just left, and she won't pick up on it, likely. But she scans, and if she saw one in the distance, she would go for it, or look at me and ask me if she could, depending on her mood. So I was gonna say, I do let her go after wildlife under certain conditions. So as long as it is safe by my definition for my dog, and depending on what kind of wildlife it is for the wildlife. So if the wildlife is a common pest in a certain area, I may not mind if she catches it. So if she catches a rat, well, so be it, right? Safety for her means there can't be a car street nearby that she might cross, or she needs to chase the animal away from the car street. And safety for the animal, for example, means that either the animal can get to safety within like 10 to 20 meters, or game will stop chasing and come back after like no more than 50 meters. Or even if she'll stay out, I'll know, and in addition to that, if she'll stay out for a few minutes, I'll know that she will find me again. I mean, I know she will always find me again, and she'll be back quickly. So as long as the other parameters are met, I let her go after prey animals she sees. I'm gonna just wait for her to come back. Oh, or the other thing is, yes, if I know that I can recall her, it doesn't matter to me if she's running towards the street, for example, if I'm confident in my recall. Needs a little polishing right now. But generally I am, so I would just call her before reaching the street, and probably right away, because I don't want the prey animal to cross a busy street either. And that's my definition of safety, right? It is not, of course, it's not entirely safe, because we are in Austria and the law allows hunters to shoot dogs if they're off-leash. And it depends on the hunter, but some will definitely shoot a dog if they can't see the person. And I know that because that's when growing up here, that has happened to several neighborhood dogs, which is free roaming, and they will go out hunting by themselves, and hunters would usually warn the owners once and then or twice. Hey, yeah, there she is. And then the next time they would just shoot the dog, because, well, whatever. But so I know the hunters around here are out during dusk and dawn, but not after or before. So my first hike of the day will be before, and my second hike of the day will be my first hike of the day will be after dawn, and my second hike of the day will be before dusk. Is that right? I mean, when it is already light and when it is still light. I may be mixing up the words dusk and dawn. And then it's pretty safe. If I have to go during dawn, is it dusk? Like before the sun goes down, I'll make sure that my dog stays close to me, or even on a leash, depending on where I go, because I don't want them to get shot. It's still possible that they would get shot, because hunters who have their territories here, so they get, I don't know if territory is the right word, but they get a license to hunt in certain areas. So if they have that license, they are free to shoot the dog at any time of the day, right? They just probably won't, because that's not when they're usually out. But if they did, the right would be on their side, the law would be on their side, and they could. But that is a risk I'm happy to accept for the freedom that I gain by allowing my dogs this kind of freedom. So here I could hide again, for example, or I could go to the left instead of to the right where game went. Hey there, hello. He's so good. She usually runs until she has seen me, and then she trots like here. All right, that's it for today. Stay dangerous, everyone, and of course, okay, yeah, I need to add this here. Of course, do whatever feels like what safety means, for example. That is dependent on the individual who uses that word. There is no one-size-fits-all definition. So what you consider safe is not what I consider safe, and vice versa, and that's all right. The things that worry you are not the things that worry me, and that's okay. Everyone has their own fears and their own risk tolerance, their own values, and I do think that's not a bad thing at all. That's a good thing. So if you find it shocking that I allow my dogs to chase wildlife under certain conditions, that's okay. I wouldn't tell anyone to do that same thing. I'm just sharing how I personally see things, and I don't think there is a right or wrong answer. You could morally, of course, argue that that's not okay because of the wildlife, or your moral line in the sand could be somewhere else, right? Because for me it is, like, for example, let's say there's a deer, and it's the time of year when they have young. So like at the very most 20 meters of chasing, like the deer running away for 20 meters and then being left alone. Like, okay, that's all right. But like I wouldn't do it for more, because then that deer obviously needs their energy to feed their young potentially, right? So I strive for a balance between looking out for the wildlife and giving my dogs freedom. And that part of the reason, for example, that I can say this here in this area of Austria is that there is a huge deer population. And the reason that there's such a huge deer population is that the hunters feed them. So there are many feeding spots where they feed them, the European deer, which are very different than the ones I've seen in North America. So they're much smaller and much faster. So game cannot keep up with them, for example. And the reason the population is much higher than this ecological niche would allow is that the hunters want to shoot the deer during hunting season. So they feed them, so they have more deer to shoot. So the deer is not a rare animal right here, and the population of dogs who walks here, so this route that I'm going in the morning is one where I have only ever met, at least like this, during this visit, I've only ever met two farmers working on tractors. I haven't met hunters, I haven't met other people walking, I haven't met a single other dog. So that is also something that I do take into consideration. If the deer got chased by 30 dogs a day, that's different. But this deer, if it got chased for 20 meters by my dog, it would be getting chased by 1 dog a day. Well, while I'm here, and then by 0 dogs for the next couple of days until some hunter shoots it. So if the population of dogs walking these areas were higher, I might make a different moral decision in terms of the deer. So that's why I like hiking where nobody else is, because I know I'm not adding even more stress to the life of already stressed wildlife. But it's what seems to me a reasonable amount of stress. But you could, and I could also argue that easily, that there shouldn't be, like, domesticated animals like dogs shouldn't be adding any stress to a deer's life. And there's nothing wrong with that argument either. I can absolutely see that argument. The reason that I come down in favor of my dog in this particular argument is that my dog's ability to run and be a dog out and about that's just such an important value to me. And it's just stronger. That's just a stronger contingency for me than the never disturb wildlife contingency. Not because it's true, because there's no such thing as truth, but because that's just where I personally come down ethically. But that is highly individual, I believe, where we end up in this respect. Feel free to share in the comments where you fall. How important is your dog's off-leash freedom to you, and what dangers and choice do you take into consideration when deciding whether your dog gets to be off-leash in a certain area? I'm curious.